And thank you for attending this afternoon's Moss Creek Owners Association annual member meeting. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you here today. My name is Chris Hervishon, and for those of you who don't know me, I am your president for the 2023 board year. Next slide, please.
Let me just quickly let people know, Chris, before we go further. If anyone has a question that they would like to ask, we will have Q&A at the end. And you can just put that in the chat along your control board. You can just put the question, your address, your name will show up to me so I can see your name. Put your address, and then at the end, we'll read those questions, and Mr. Hervishon will either answer those or ask Mr. Collins or Mr. Miller to answer.
And Susanna, just for clarity, should they use the Q&A button at the bottom or the chat button?
They can use either one. I'll check both of them.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And just to reiterate, you can ask questions throughout the meeting, but we won't answer those until the end.
Yes.
Okay, so our agenda for this afternoon's meeting will be as follows. I will provide the president's report. Don Collins, our treasurer, will provide the treasurer's report. John Miller, our general manager, will provide the general manager's report. And finally, we will partake in a question and answer session at the end. Next slide. On the screen, you will see our current board of directors: Pat Hughes, vice president; Don Collins, treasurer; Jody Rolfe, secretary; Chris Gallert; Dale Todd; Bo Keen; and Jan Alpert. And as a friendly reminder, we are currently operating with only 8 directors, as 1 director moved out of the community earlier this year, in fact, out of the country. so far, we have done just fine with 8 directors. And what the community should know is that this is a great group of people who all have one common goal, and that is to do what's best for Moss Creek. All of the directors provide valuable effort and perspective, and I think the group is working together very well. We are very, very lucky. Next slide. Committee volunteers. So listed on this slide are all of our volunteers of the various committees that we have here in Moss Creek. Moss Creek wouldn't function as well as it does without the hard work and dedication of the committees. And I would like to personally thank all of these members for their time and dedicated service. For those members watching, each year we ask members of the community to volunteer their time to serve on a committee. If you're interested in serving Moss Creek, a call for volunteers will come out in the fall. And if you're interested in serving or simply just want to become more engaged in the community, Moss Creek has the following committees: Communications and Marketing, Architectural Review Board, otherwise known as the ARB, Greens and Grounds, which is otherwise known as G&G, Social and Recreation Activities Committee, which is otherwise known as SARA, the Finance Committee, Facilities and Infrastructure Committee, the Nominating Committee, and the Audit Committee. If you're interested in the deliberations of a committee or serving on a particular committee, I would encourage you to attend at least 1 meeting this year, either in person or virtually, which is a new option, and to submit an application to serve if you find it of interest. Next slide. On this slide, you'll see photos of some, but not all, of our talented Moss Creek staff. The staff and administration is the biggest driver of our member experience, and we are very lucky to have such a talented and generally long tenured staff. I would like to take this opportunity to personally thank them for the talent and enthusiasm that they bring to their work at Moss Creek. Next slide. 2022 key performance highlights. 2022 was both an exciting and a challenging year. We were able to either complete or begin a number of initiatives which will have a materially positive impact for years to come. Among those efforts are: number 1, the clubhouse renovation, which will be completed within the next few months. Number 2, the 278 frontage project, which has modernized the look of our community from the outside. There has been a lot of feedback from the community, and the Greens and Grounds Committee, led by board member Chris Gallert, has done a great job of researching and addressing those items where they are appropriate. I would encourage everyone to review the minutes of the April 11th Greens and Grounds Committee when they become available, as well as review the April 6th edition of the Week of the Creek for more information on those efforts. Next, security enhancements along 278 by the stables are being undertaken with the addition of security cameras. The South Golf Course, as we all know, was renovated with new irrigation, replacing an old and outdated system, as well as new greens. As is now grass growing season, we should start to see the benefit of the project, even though the greens will remain firm, which I know we all love, some of us. We have learned a lot from this project, and that will benefit us when the North Course renovation is undertaken. Next up, phase 1 of the pickleball courts are now completed. That's adding a popular new amenity to our community. And then finally, I would be remiss if I didn't mention, but 2022 was a tough budget year in a highly inflationary environment with a tight labor market. We were able to navigate those circumstances relatively well, retaining staff and filling some open positions. Nobody likes the effect on our wallets, for sure, but we increased fees less than neighboring and competing communities, which maintain our market position and member experience. Next slide, please. The 2023 focus. So 2023 may prove to be a tough economic year, only time will tell. The main goal, as always, is to simultaneously maintain our financial stability and continuously enhance the member experience. The member experience means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, but specifically our efforts this year will be focused on proactive and timely communication with the membership. This is of utmost importance and doesn't cost us a dime. It has a huge impact. Personally, this is my number one focus, and I consider this a work in progress. Responsibilities and collaboration. We are all owners in Moss Creek, every single one of us, and we need to all own the member experience, not just the board and not just the administration. We all own it. The 2023 annual member satisfaction survey will be coming out in October. Your feedback is critical in moving the community forward, and the board does, keyword does, read the comments and take them to heart. 2023 is the year that we will update the strategic plan as well. We've already started the preliminary process for that. But the important thing that you should know is the board strongly believes we need member feedback in order to set the strategy for Moss Creek going forward. We are currently working to retain a third party to help facilitate the strategic planning process, but most assuredly, that will include member focus groups. Within the next few months, we'll be rolling out a new technology platform for the community. This will enhance members' ability to find important information, make reservations, as well as enhance communication with the membership. Golf carts will finally be arriving sometime in May, complete with as promised GPS, which will enhance both golfer experience and the condition of the golf courses. And then finally, the much anticipated clubhouse renovation will be completed within the next few months. As a successful grand opening will mean getting as many people to experience the new clubhouse as possible. So this concludes my president's report, and I will look forward to your questions at the end of the meeting. And I'd now like to introduce our treasurer, Don Collins, for the treasurer's report.
Thank you, Chris. Nice report. As your treasurer, basically, I'm going to give you a summary of the roles of the finance and audit committees. I'm going to introduce committee members, and I'm going to summarize the financial health of the MCOA. You could move the slide. Thank you. Basically, the finance committee's primary role is to ensure financial decisions and support the MCOA's mission. So the effort there basically is to have financial decisions and strategies aligned with what the MCOA is looking to accomplish. We review monthly results to budget, very critical activity. We do review insurance policies and employee benefit programs, monitor capital expenditures, review facilities and infrastructure committees, non-reserve capital project recommendations. Chris mentioned we have a facilities and infrastructure committee, and they focus on opportunities for the consideration of the community in terms of enhancing the member experience. And as a finance committee, we work in conjunction with that to understand the financial ramifications of doing so. We also recommend an annual 5-year financial projection or a 5-year financial plan. It's key to understand the difference between a 1-year budget and a financial plan encompassing a 5-year period of time. There's been some misunderstandings in the past, but basically a 5-year plan is exactly a projection. And it's critical that we make such projections in order to accurately budget in the upcoming calendar year. So it should not be looked at as an actual commitment, but more as an important guideline. We also will be recommending the 2024 annual budget to the MCOA board later in the year. That effort starts in the third quarter and will basically carry through the end of the year. On our committee, very good members, very financially astute people, and people willing to give their time and their energy to the community. We have Dale Todd serving as the vice chair. We have John Lozan, Peter Sparzo, Tim Barry, Larry Clayton, Stan Potter, and Bruce Roberts. Chris, the MCOA president, serves as an ex officio. Also participating are John Miller and Payman Shamlu, our controller. You can move this slide, please. We have an annual audit process, and the primary function of that is to basically try to do as good a job as possible at maintaining the financial stability and integrity of the community, of the MCOA. Once again, we're very fortunate to have people who are willing to give their time to that end. But the audit process ensures resources are managed for financial stability. We utilize an independent audit firm. We have the MCOA 2022 audited financial statements for your perusal if you choose on the website. And we use a company called Webster Rogers, LLP, to actually perform the audit itself. Serving as our chair is Dick Obrig, along with Judy Johnson, Lynn McFeeters, Jim Winslow, and I serve as an ex officio. And I would like to personally thank each one of those individuals, as well as the finance committee members, which I probably omitted. Next slide, please. So in a simple statement, we're in very good financial shape. We have a strong balance sheet. We have a total cash of 11.2 million, including reserves, and I guess what should actually be referred to as unrestricted cash. We have an adequate reserve account. We have an operating income that's exceeded our budget in 2022. We have a non-operating exceeded budget in 2022. And very importantly, we had member equity increase by 8%. Next slide. So here's actual results. We look at revenue of 11.6 and a budget of 11.485. So we've got a surplus, obviously, of the 115. We have expenses that came in a little under budget as well, leaving us with a surplus of 341,000. Revenue was higher basically to a couple of things. We had a higher activity fee turnout than what was budgeted. We've had more revenue coming from golf than what was anticipated, and the Water Oak utility. Savings and expenses basically came from employee benefits and a little bit of outside services, rental and leases. Next slide. This is always interesting. I think it gives us a good idea of where the revenue comes on one page. And you'll see that the biggest piece, the big blue piece of the pie, are HOA dues, representing 52.3% of our operating revenue. The other big contributors are the Water Oak utility, and we have the golf courses at 10%, Water Oak almost 14%. For those of you who don't know, Water Oak Utility is basically a water company that the MCOA owns, and we sell water to consumers outside of Moss Creek, and we do generate a profit from that, which is a good thing in terms of helping us supplement costs. You can move forward, Suzanne. Here's the expenses, and I think rather than going through all of them, I think it's important to note the bulk of expenses stem from wages and associated employee benefits. Just about 62% of what we spend here to run our community is spent on our employees. They clearly are the most important asset we have. And therefore they do represent the largest expense. Next slide. So on the non-operating results side, we had a very positive experience as well. We had revenue coming in $905,000 over budget. We had expenses coming in considerably under budget, leaving us with a nice surplus of $984,000. Two things, I guess, to comment about non-operating revenue. The bulk of it coming from certificate fees from the sale of homes is a difficult revenue source to anticipate and count on per se. So we do take a very conservative approach to budgeting for that. We can't control the real estate market. We can't control interest rates, et cetera. So we err on the conservative side when it comes to anticipating certificate fees. We also had a recognition of $300,000 from the government for the employee retention credit that came from the pandemic of $300,000. So those two categories are basically responsible for the nice surplus. And we were able to take $788,000 of our HOA fee and apply it to capital, which is a good thing to be able to do. Next slide. When we look at our reserve fund and new capital spending, we had a pretty active year in 2022, and we do anticipate that continuing. We did have 4 major projects. In the golf courses, we put close to $2.5 million, a little bit north of $2 million into the clubhouse, $400,000 in the racket center, and another $223,000 for a golf maintenance facility that we were in dire need of to help our maintenance staff. So those are the top 4 expenditures during the year. When we look at our net results versus budget, and we look at actual from an operating standpoint and non-operating standpoint, at the end of the day, it's leaving us with an actual of $3.1 million, which is exceeding the budget by $1.1 million. That enabled us to allocate $1.6 million to the reserve fund. We allocated $100,000 to what we call our emergency fund, and the rest was allocated to unrestricted cash. To look at the other side, we had debt. We do have a line of credit we have not borrowed against, so we have no debt from that. We have a clubhouse renovation loan of $1,984,000. We have an equipment loan balance of $620,000, leaving us with $2.6 million in debt. The key number to look at in relation to that's $2.6 million of capital, basically, that we borrowed, that cost us $392,000 in 2022 to service. If we look once again at our year-end cash positions, we look really good. We have $6 million on the unrestricted side. We have money that it's restricted under Stablegate, Royal Point. We have escrow, we have an emergency fund, and we have a substantial reserve fund. That's where the $11,175 comes from. You can move forward, Susanna. So if we look at the balance sheet, we've had an increase in value. 21, we had total assets of $31 million. We now have 34. That's basically a $3 million growth. Liabilities did grow along with that. We have $1.2 million right now in debt, more than what we had in 2021. Once again, almost entirely due to the clubhouse renovation. Member equity has increased by about $1,894,000. So when we look at the end of the day, when we look at the total equity and we compare that to what we had in 21, we see a difference of $3,099,000, which is an 8% increase in member equity, which is pretty outstanding. So in essence, the value that members hold in Moss Creek for their individual asset or home has increased in value by 8%. When we look at 2023, just to give you a broad view, I guess is the best way to describe it. We are looking at operating revenue of about 13.7, and we're looking at expenses of about 13.5. If all goes well, we'll be left with a surplus of 174,000. On the non-operating revenue side, we are looking at $1,940,000 of revenue, $139,000, I should say, in expenses, or a surplus of $1,008,000, leaving us with a total surplus of $1,975,000. Next slide, please. Susanna, is that the last? Yes, it is. So basically, this concludes my treasurer's report, my presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions after the meeting or at any point for that matter. I'd like to introduce our general manager, John Miller.
Okay, thank you, Don. Good afternoon, everybody, and kudos to those of you joining us live today, despite the lure of this beautiful afternoon outside. We're pleased to have you here. First, I'd like to take a few moments to recognize members of our management team, shown on the screen. Starting with Jim Labano, Chief of Security, Karen Bender, Human Resources Manager, Pinckney Crosby, Facilities Maintenance Manager, Susanna Johnston, Assistant General Manager, Tom Logue, Director of Golf, Jim O'Connor, Clubhouse Manager, Mike Paulmeyer, Fitness and Wellness Director, Katie Ruth, Director of Racket Sports, Payman Shamlu, Controller, Stephen Stewart, our relatively new Executive Chef, Roger Ward, our Water Oak Utility Manager, and Mitchell Wilkerson, our Director of Golf Course and Grounds Maintenance. Past year has been a particularly busy one with high levels of member activity along with several projects underway at the same time. Since the onset of COVID in 2020, we have seen increased activity levels for golf, racket sports, and fitness, and business at Mackey Creek Grill has increased more than fivefold since 2019. The increase at Mackey is due in part, of course, to the clubhouse closure, but even before the closure, the volume in 2021 and 2020 was up substantially from that in 2019. I want to express my gratitude to our management team and to all our staff for responding positively to this increased demand and for their dedication and commitment to excellent service to the Moss Creek community. Now for a review of current and recently completed projects, as well as a few other items of interest to the membership. Of course, the big project underway is the renovation of our clubhouse. This is the first total renovation of the building since it first opened in 1996. We are addressing operational issues with the building, most notably with the expansion of the kitchen, and we are updating the layout and decor to adapt to the more upscale casual preference in society today. The project is taking longer than we originally expected due to a number of factors. The contractor is now making good progress and the interiors are finally starting to take shape, as seen on the photos we are sharing here. The locker rooms should be open by the beginning of May. The kitchen is nearing completion with installation of equipment and some final touches. We intend to seek approval from Beaufort County building officials to operate the kitchen as soon as it is functional in order to allow our culinary team to begin using the facility even before the rest of the building is open. We are still waiting for Fraser Construction, our general contractor, to provide us a firm date for completion. As of right now, we are looking at reopening in mid-June, but that date is still tentative as Fraser awaits delivery of one final key materials item. We will announce the reopening date as soon as we have a firm date from our contractor, which we do expect to have very soon. With the reopening about 2 months off, we are making plans for a grand reopening event, as Chris mentioned earlier, and for the phase-in of dining during the first few weeks after reopening. We plan to have an open house to provide everyone an opportunity to explore the newly renovated building. We are working with committee members from the Social and Recreational Committee and the Communications and Marketing Committee on plans for the open house. When we do reopen for regular dining, we plan to begin with a soft opening, which in this case means that we will limit the number of reservations each day to allow our kitchen staff and service staff to reacclimate to the new facility and to get back into the full flow of business. The phase-in will allow us to ramp up to full capacity as we are ready. We will share more information on the grand opening and the soft opening in the next few weeks. While I'm on this topic, I want to take a moment to recognize our clubhouse team for their incredible effort and dedication during this project. Jim, Chef Stephen, and our entire staff have done a remarkable job providing a la carte and event production out of what is essentially a food truck. Anyone with food service experience will appreciate how challenging it is to provide the level of service our team has been able to provide at Mackey Creek Grill for the past 10 months. I also want to thank them for sticking with us throughout the project. As you know, one of our goals when we started the project was to keep our full-time staff engaged and invigorated, and to reopen with the same familiar staff who our members love and appreciate. I'm pleased that when we reopen the clubhouse, you will be greeted by our beloved mainstays, including Crystal, Hannah, Kareem, Lisa, Matt, Trevor, Chavoy, the other Lisa, Diane, and Tracy, along with the core of our culinary team, including Andy, Maria, Ryan, Shirley, Irma, Stacy, and Brian. And of course, there will be a few new employees for you to get to know as well. Another project that has been underway is the sign and landscape work at the community entrance, along with the landscaping work along the 278 frontage. This work is nearing completion. It's been a very visible and much talked about project in the community. As originally designed, the entry sign modification had the water flowing behind the letters. What we discovered when we activated the waterfall feature was that with the lighter color of the sign, the water flowing behind the letters was barely visible. So to recreate the iconic waterfall look, we revised the setup so that the water now flows over the letters, which has made the waterfall much more visible. The remaining work includes additional plantings and adjustments of the uplighting to better highlight the specimen live oak trees near the entrance. We heard some questions about the plant selection in the planting bed in front of the entry sign. The initial flowers were selected to get a pop of color using plants available at that time. We changed the planting bed out several times a year, and we will work toward a more robust look with the future plantings. The road paving overlay project for 2022 got a late start last November and is carried over into this year. All of the roads scheduled for overlay are complete, except for a section of Devil's Elbow Road by the clubhouse parking lot. Excuse me. The contractor is back on property now, completing some repairs on roads that were not scheduled for overlay, most notably repairs to damaged asphalt on Moss Creek Drive. The contractor is also doing some additional repairs to the drainage system, including work done yesterday on Timber Lane. The contractor is scheduled to begin repaving of the clubhouse parking lot tomorrow. This work will be done in phases so that we can keep part of the parking area open at all times. The first phase will be the main parking area along the front of the building. Parking will be limited for the next several days. The contractor will mill the existing parking areas first and then pave each phase after the milling is complete. This means that you will be parking on a milled surface for a few days until the paving is complete. Striping for the parking spaces will be done as quickly as possible following the paving. We ask that members carpool or ride bicycles for golf and racket sports to lessen the parking demand during the paving work. Doing parking lot work is an inconvenience whenever it must be done. But it will be better to get this done now while the clubhouse is closed and the demand for parking is somewhat reduced. One final paving project we are trying to get scheduled yet this year is to overlay the paved trail on Fording Island. No date has been set for this work, but we will give the community notice before the work begins. A few years ago, we began a dredging process to remove sediment from lagoons throughout the community. The lagoons were designed to manage the flow of stormwater through the community. Stormwater carries sediment, which over time settles in the lagoons. This accumulated sediment must be removed to restore the holding capacity of the lagoons. We contract with Estate Management Services, a regional company specializing in pond and lake management services. This company monitors our lagoons on an ongoing basis, and they also provide dredging services. The plan for dredging work is determined by conducting a bathymetry study that identifies the amount of accumulated sediment in areas within each lagoon. The bathymetry maps are then used to target the locations within a lagoon to be dredged. The dredging process involves pumping the sediment from the bottom of the lagoon into large drying bags on the shore. The sediment in the bags is allowed to dry for several weeks, after which the bags are opened and the sediment is either spread on site or removed, depending on the location. This year, we had Estate Management remove sediment from lagoons adjacent to holes number 7 and number 9 on the south course. This work was completed last week. The sediment removed from near 9 South T complex was partly due to erosion that occurred during the construction of new tees last summer when, as you will recall, we experienced multiple heavy storms which partially breached the erosion control fencing in place for the project. But there was considerable sediment in that lagoon even prior to the project. In fact, the main reason we rebuilt the T complex at 9 South was to address the erosion problem we had due to the T's close proximity to the water and the steep slope from the T's down to the lagoon. Late last year, the board approved management's recommendation that we install a security camera system in the paddocks at our equestrian facility in order to better guard against intrusions over the fence along the frontage with Highway 278. This system consists of 3 cameras that are connected to a monitor in the gatehouse. The cameras are equipped with infrared illuminators to be able to capture images in low light. When triggered, the system will send an alarm to the monitor in the gatehouse to alert security staff that motion is detected. The installation of the new system is nearly complete, and we expect it to be activated very soon. This spring, we had the pools at Bostwick Point Park renovated. The exercise pool and the lap pool were renovated, including replastering of both pools. We also installed an additional heat pump for the pool facility, which enables us to control the temperatures in both pools simultaneously. Up to now, we have had to manually switch the temperature control daily from one pool to the other, which made it difficult to maintain a constant temperature in both pools and was also hard on the equipment. One final pool item of note, we have new umbrellas on order to replace the old ones, and we are also adding several more to provide more shade around the pool deck. Staying at Bostwick Park, this summer we will be replacing most of the playground equipment in the play area there. We will be replacing the main play structure with a modern one designed for ages 5 through 12. We will also be adding some standalone pieces for younger children. The existing swing set will be retained, but will be moved a little to provide more room for the new equipment. We will also be doing some modifications to the treehouse structure, adding some activity panels and removing the slide, which unfortunately has become a safety concern. The equipment is scheduled to be delivered in mid-June. The playground will need to be closed for a few days during removal of the existing equipment and installation of the new equipment. If the delivery happens to be delayed, we will postpone the installation until after the 4th of July holiday week. We are also in the development process for a new state-of-the-art club management software system. The new system, called Club Essential, offers integrated website, mobile app, and amenity reservation systems for members. The new system will also provide more effective communication tools, point of sale, and accounting systems for our operations. Club Essential will replace Jonas and Fortes. We will also be introducing a new gate access system for security, known as ABDI, which integrates with Club Essential. The new security system will enable members to send electronic passes directly to guests via email or text, and includes a guest arrival notification feature that allows members to elect to receive notifications when their guests are checked in. One major advantage of the new technology systems is that we will have one comprehensive database, whereas we currently must maintain 3 different databases with the current mix of systems. Club Essential is scheduled to debut in early July, and ABDI will follow a little later in the summer. Club Essential is a user-friendly system, and it should be relatively easy for members to make the transition to this new system. To assist in the transition, management will be providing training and tips for members on use of the reservation systems, website, mobile app, and other aspects of the new system. In my April Advocate article, I mentioned a couple of things related to internet and cable TV services in the community. Recently, we were contacted by representatives of both Spectrum and Comcast expressing interest in extending their internet and cable TV services within Moss Creek. We have had conversations with Spectrum in the past, but their interest was always posited on some investment or commitment from us in exchange for them investing in a new network. Now, based on their initial inquiries, it appears that both Spectrum and Comcast are motivated to invest in new networks in communities like Moss Creek without a financial commitment or other commitment on our part. We are working with both providers to gather more specific information. One or more of our committees will be reviewing these proposals in the coming weeks to evaluate the potential service and pricing benefits to residents, as well as the extent of disruption associated with installing a new network within a community. We will keep the community advised as this process moves along. We also recently received a proposal from Hargray to modify the terms of our existing agreement with them. The proposal from Hargray offers more attractive pricing for high-speed data than presently in place. A representative of Hargray will be at the next board meeting to review their proposal with our governing body. We have a long-standing agreement with Hargray that provides the utility with access to rights of way and easements within the community for installation and maintenance of their network. The agreement also extends to Hargray limited exclusive marketing rights within the community, but does not provide them exclusive rights to providing telecommunication, broadband, and video services in Moss Creek. This agreement was most recently renewed in 2018 for a 10-year term. One final topic I would like to mention this afternoon regards our summer maintenance on the golf courses. Each year, we have normally closed each golf course for a week during the summer in order to perform intense, disruptive maintenance practices such as aeration of greens fairways. Last summer, we had USGA agronomist Jordan Booth tour the golf courses with members of the Green and Grounds Committee and our professional staff. One of the recommendations from Mr. Booth was that we consider a longer closure for each course during the summer to allow more time for the courses to recover after aeration and to enable additional work and small projects to be done while each course is closed. Mr. Booth noted that some other golf facilities in the Southeast closed for 1 month for summer maintenance. He stated that this strategy not only allows the golf course maintenance team to do their job more effectively, but also allows for the golf courses to be in top condition when they reopen, instead of members having to play on turf that is still recovering from the maintenance procedures. The Golf Board and the Greening Grounds Committee discussed the recommendations for a longer summer closure last fall, and both groups agreed that we should give it a try. So this summer, as you may have noticed on the golf calendar, the South Course will be closed from June 5th through June 30th, and the North Course will be closed July 10th through August 4th. We will provide more information on work to be done during these closures as the dates approach. In summary, we are in the midst of a very busy period at Moss Creek. Real estate sales over the past couple of years have been very high, and as a result, we have many new members in the community enjoying everything Moss Creek has to offer. There is a high level of activity at all of our amenities, and we continue to make significant improvements to the amenities and facilities around the community. We all look forward to reopening the clubhouse and completing the other project work that is currently underway. Some projects have taken longer than we had anticipated, which is an unfortunate reality in the world of construction today that continues to be plagued by labor shortages and supply chain issues. But the investment you are all now making in your community will make for a more enjoyable and attractive experience in the coming months and years. Thanks for your attention. Now I will turn the program over to Chris Hervishon to wrap things up.
Thank you so much, John and Don. Those concludes our reports, and we can take some Q&A now. Susanna, did you get any through the chat, or is it just the basic?
Yeah, just the Q&A. I got 4 questions. So we had asked for questions. If anybody had questions to be submitted prior to the meeting, I just want to announce that I did not receive any questions prior to the meeting. The first question today is from Ty Giesman. The question is, what is the status of the flag survey?
Yes, good question. Current hot topic. We did get some preliminary numbers this afternoon, and basically the answer to that question. So the question was, do you feel as though the flags detract from the natural beauty of Moss Creek? And I believe the numbers I ran just before we got on this meeting were about 3/4 said no. 3/4 of the respondents. Check me on that, Susanna, if I'm misstating that, but
yeah, I think that's pretty correct. There was maybe over 800 respondents so far. The survey is open if you've not taken it, and it was around 500 and something to 200 and something. So I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but there were 400 comments. I've been told by Jan Alpert that her committee will be reviewing all the results and all the comments over the next several ARB meetings. So, and I believe she's going to put an update out in the e-blast this week. So look for that information.
yes, thank you for that context. So like the basic gist of it is that ARB is still looking at it, but currently where we are with preliminary numbers, overwhelmingly the community said no. So that is the first one. So the second one, Don, this is going to be a you question, but is Moss Creek able to take advantage of high interest savings rates with our reserve money? And that is from Irene Buvalides.
The answer is yes. We have, and the number is stumping me for the moment, but I want to say it's approximately $2 million of cash that we've put into treasuries and short-term higher interest earning products. One of the challenges that we have here is a cash flow, a daily sweeping in and out of our accounts, but we were able to allocate a couple of $1 million into investment.
Thank you, Don. Mark Schaefer really likes the meeting, so thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. Okay, so question from Don Nantel, who I'm going to basically paraphrase this. So the visibility of the stop signs within Moss Creek, in particular, two issues. So one is that they have red reflective tape, which makes it difficult to see, particularly at night. And so the question is, why not white reflective tape? And then the other part of the question is some have overhanging branches that are blocking the view. So John, I think this is a question for you, but what are we doing around the visibility of stop signs? And has this been an issue that's been raised before? And if so, how are we addressing it?
We do have the reflective tape on the posts at the signs, but we've also replaced signs with a more reflective type of material. You'll notice that at the signs at the four-way intersection by the clubhouse. And we'll continue to go with a new product as we replace other signs. So we're doing what we can to make them more visible. As far as if there are tree branches blocking signs, if somebody sees that, please send us a work order or give us a call, and we'll address them. And I'll also alert staff to be, on the look for that as well.
We'll check this particular corner he's talking about tomorrow.
Awesome.
I'm sorry.
Just let me take a brief second to correct the answer I gave to Irene. We do have $5 million, not 2, that's invested in interest earning investments, primarily the Treasury.
Okay, thank you. And we're good on the stop sign answer. John and Susanna.
I see that that he did mention specific location. We'll check that out and trim branches as necessary.
Great, thank you. Next one's from an anonymous attendee, and that's okay. Can you, and this is for you, John, but can you restate the dates the playground will be closed for renovation?
Sure. We don't have a specific date. As with so many items, when you order them now, the playground equipment is on order. We've been told that it should be, we should be receiving it in mid-June, and it'll be installed, as soon as the vendor has it receives it. As I mentioned in the report, if we get close to the 4th of July holiday week, we'll postpone any installation so that we don't have the playground out of service during the 4th of July holiday week.
And our team will be taking down the old equipment. So we'll be coordinating that with the installer so that, we're trying to take ours down a couple of days before they get here. So we can tighten that up as close as we can.
Thank you. The next one is from Ruben Brock, and this one is asking, what are the plans to reduce the excessive speeds on Moss Creek Drive? So I'll take the first stab at this. So we looked at this on the board level last year, and we did approve an investment in new speed signs. So there are several of those that are out there, and had some discussions with Jim Albano, who does a fantastic job and was very, very helpful in that discussion as we were talking about what can we do, because we have addressed this. And we looked at a lot of data, and the reality is that most of the speeding that is happening on Moss Creek Drive is with members. And this gets back to the point that I made at the beginning of this meeting, where we all have to own it. The membership needs to own the member experience, at least in some part. And so the speeding really needs to be addressed at a membership level. Now, yes, there are other vehicles and contractors and things like that that are speeding. That is being monitored. We know it's a concern. We are addressing it as best as we can, and we have been for quite some time at this point. But the vast majority of it is a member issue, and we need to own it, and we need to not speed, basically. John and Susanna, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that pretty well covers it. With those signs, we get data and we're tracking the speeds, and it's having the increased enforcement activity that Security Patrol is doing certainly appears to be having positive results.
Okay, thank you. And the next one is from Tom Kraft. what is the latest status on the contamination of the pond on 6 South? And then what is being done to potentially prevent similar issues repeating elsewhere in the community? John, I think that's a you question.
Sure. We were notified.
Correction. I'm sorry, John, he corrects himself and he says
Yeah,
it was
I
the
see
one on
that.
4 South.
4 South. Okay. Yep.
I saw
Sorry.
that. It's actually was first reported near 4 South by one of the residents on Wax Myrtle Drive or Max Myrtle, Drive. And we responded, that was last Tuesday. We called to state management, who I referred to earlier in my presentation, the company that we contract with for our pond maintenance work. They responded that afternoon and sprayed an application in that pond to control the algae bloom. We've also experienced it in some of the other lagoons, and actually the state management has been out this week trying to control the algae blooms in those other areas where it's been observed as well. So we're doing what we can to control it. It's a natural occurrence, as I'm sure most everybody on this webinar understands. But we're trying to stay ahead of it the best we can, and we're using a very well qualified company to do that work for us.
Okay, thank you, John. And next one is back to the speeding issue, but basically, have we considered speed bumps? We did consider speed bumps last year when we discussed the issue with speeding and the signs and so forth. And basically, the conclusion that we came to during those discussions, actually under the advisement of Jim Albano, is that speed bumps really don't solve the problem. Basically, you slow down for the speed bump and you speed right back up. It doesn't really address the issue. Anything you want to add there, John or Susanna?
I think that pretty much addresses it, yes.
Okay, and so those are all of the questions, and I can't honestly believe that we're going to get let off the hook that easy.
Now that
So
you said that,
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said, now that you said that, someone's going to come up with a real hard one.
Yeah, I mean, by all means, please. I mean, we've got like the whole hour booked. Might as well use the last 8 minutes. So if anybody's got any additional questions, comments, thoughts, concerns, random musings, we'll take anything that you got. Okay, Seal Trace. So during the summer maintenance of month-long closings of each golf course, will there be Monday closings? So no golf course on those days. I think it's a John question.
Yes, right now the plan is, other than for the holiday Mondays, there will be closings on those dates. So unfortunately, we'll only have golf 6 days a week for those weeks.
I'm sure Tom will be, we always have our reciprocal play. That's normal during the summer. And I'm sure Tom will be working to, make sure we have plenty of choices on for reciprocal play on those days.
Okay. Anonymous attendee, just curious why there's a speed bump at the guardhouse if they don't work.
In a location where you want traffic to stop or slow down very, significantly, such as an entry like that, they are effective. It's where you put them. If you're trying to slow traffic down on a street, on a straightaway on a street, what experience shows is people may slow down to avoid the jolt of the bump, but they just speed right back up as soon as they leave as soon as they're over the bump. So, but at the entrance, you're doing it to control the speed through that gate.
Another point on the speed bumps, which forgot to mention, is that generally emergency vehicles don't like speed bumps either.
That's true.
We also discussed at the.
Yeah, a lot of times the fire department will disallow you putting them in.
Okay, so next one, what's happening with the marina? And I think that's partly a John question and partly a Don question.
The marina is scheduled in the 5-year plan to be done in 2025, and that's the schedule we're working toward.
Don, anything you want to add to that from a financial perspective?
Oh, well, I mean, basically as John indicated, it is in the 5-year plan. We are planning on the expenditure. I don't have anything to add to that.
Only thing I would add is that we have a 5-year window to get that done. So that's one of those things that's sort of pressing from a government perspective, which is a little bit unique in how we plan out projects. Okay. Thank you for all that we do for Moss Creek Board and Management. Thank you so much. How many members were logged into Zoom today? At the peak, we had 93. Currently, we have 18. And next one, does Moss Creek receive a fee for hosting the SoCon Championship or the Golf Invitational? If so, what is the income figure? I don't know what the income figure is. John could potentially provide some color on that. But yes, Moss Creek does receive a fee for hosting from the various teams. Anything to add on that, John?
I don't have the exact amount right off the top of my head here, but yes, we do get a fee.
Okay. Thank you. And last one, what are the future plans for Bostwick area and Mackey's Creek Grill? I'll take a stab at this. As John noted in his presentation, like Mackey's Creek Grill is basically a food truck. It is very popular. So clearly that's probably not the super long-term solution there, but the Bostwick area in general is being looked at from the Facilities and Infrastructure Committee, and they're looking at what the long-range plan for that is going to be. We don't have anything definitive. We haven't built anything definitive into the financials, and so that's very much TBD. Anything to add to that, John, Susanna, Don?
No,
No,
That's the last question, unless anybody else has any more. Still got 3 minutes coming in under the gun. And we got a great job. Thank you so much. And okay, here's a good one. Can you comment on the remaining road paving work? I think it's a John question.
sure. We've, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to start paving tomorrow is the schedule for the contractor being working on the parking lot at the clubhouse. We still have some repair work at various locations around the community on the roads that were not scheduled for overlay this year, but have some isolated damage from root damage or otherwise. The other area that we are planning to do yet this year, but we haven't been able to get the contractor scheduled yet on it, is to pave the asphalt or repave the asphalt trail on Fording Island.
And timetable is the follow-up on that one.
The timetable on the paving,
Mhm.
the
Remaining roads.
the parking lot work, as I said, is to start tomorrow, and it'll take several days for them to mill all the areas and then to lay the asphalt, and then time to do the striping to restripe the parking spaces and other striping in the parking lot. That should all be done within the next week to 10 days. The other items, it's a matter of us being able to get the contractor back on site, which is a real challenge doing small patchwork because they obviously prefer larger projects, such as the other work that they've already done for us. But we're continuing to push them to get it done as quickly as we can. I don't know what else I can say on that.
And there was a follow-up, like, do you have a specific timetable on Moss Creek Drive or Salt Timber?
I think the
Oh,
question is
yes.
more of the remaining streets in the community that need to be.
I'm sorry, yeah, we're scheduling paving every other year now. Since the 2022 spilled over into 2023, we'll be paving additional streets next year, and then in 2026, we'll likely be wrapping up the rest of the roads. We take a look at each of the remaining roads as we plan a year's paving schedule, and depending on the condition of roads, we'll do the ones most in need. Most likely what we'll do is schedule Moss Creek Drive to be the final paving project, so that the main street is paved as the last one as the contractor leaves the community, so to speak. So all the secondary roads will be done before we finish that main drive. That's why we went ahead and wanted to do the damaged areas from root damage this year instead of just waiting, because we know it's going to be a few more years before we're going to get to that road.
That looks like it's it. So we can go ahead and wrap it up. Just want to say thank you to Susanna and John and Don, and thank you to the membership in particular for your time and attention and the engagement and all the questions. This was a lot of fun to put together for you all, and hopefully you got something out of it, and appreciate your time.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
We will send out an email tomorrow with the taped version for those who were not able to be here today, and we'll also post it on the website.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.